Hello, welcome to another Wednesday webinar. My name is Danai and thank you for joining. So in today's webinar, we are going to be looking at structure in a nonfiction text. Last week, we looked at language in a nonfiction text. And we are going to be using the same text that we used last week, except we're going to be focusing on language this time. So once again, welcome. Hello, Veronica. Nice to see you again. Thank you for joining. So if you are joining me today, please type in what exam board your child is with. So whether it's AQA, OCR, EDUCAS, or any other ones, please type in your exam board or your child's exam board. So, as I said, we are looking at nonfiction in a structure text. Structure in a nonfiction text. Edexcel, excellent, thank you. So for Edexcel, you will have to look at language and structure at the same time in paper 1 and paper 2, okay? So all that means is that what we did last week, you would apply that to your language paragraph, and what we're doing this week, you can apply that to your structure paragraph. So just to introduce myself, my name is Danai. I'm a qualified teacher. I qualified in 2017. And I worked as a secondary school teacher until 2022 when my husband and I welcomed our daughter. I love baking, watching cooking shows, and playing tennis. Okay, so one thing that's going to be quite important for us today in looking at our text is the idea of pathos, okay? And pathos is an important tool for persuasion in arguments. Pathos is a method of convincing people with an argument drawn out through an emotional response, okay? Now, this is important because when writers are writing nonfiction texts, they are usually presenting a specific point of view, okay? And they will be telling a story because whether it's fiction or nonfiction, it's still telling a story, but it's for the specific purpose of persuading somehow, okay? And so pathos is something that's used in persuasive texts. It's used to in relation to emotively persuading a reader, okay? So it relies on emotion. So that's an important definition for today. The question that we will be exploring is the question we'll be answering is, how does the writer use structure to create a persuasive argument? So again, the reason why I've created this type of question is because nonfiction texts, the writer is seeking to persuade. So when you are analyzing, you need to look and think about how the writer is trying to persuade you. And then when you are writing a nonfiction text or a persuasive text, which everyone has to do, you have to think about how you can be persuasive. So even the things that we're learning, think about how you would be able to use them in your own writing as well. So when we're thinking about structure, I like to use this image of bricks, okay? Because it's a helpful metaphor, if you will. A builder uses bricks, but a writer uses events. So even in nonfiction text, a writer is still telling a story. It just happens to be a true story. And if you've attended one of my other webinars, when we looked at structure in fiction texts, we were looking at how the events created by the writer are organized for a specific effect. When we are writing in nonfiction text, even though it is real life or based on real life events, it's still storytelling, okay? It is still storytelling. So you need to pay attention to the way a writer organizes their events in order to tell their story. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. So we are going to read the text again, but I want you to focus on the way events are organized, okay? So, for example, I want you to think about how the writer chooses to begin the text and think about why they've chosen to begin the text in that manner. Okay? We're not describing how it begins. We are thinking about why the writer has chosen to begin in that way. Okay? And then as we proceed, think about what type of emotion the writer is building up. Okay, so the language of building, you're thinking structurally here. Think about how one thing is leading to another, why the writer is choosing to follow as one thing with another. So when you're analyzing, you're constantly thinking about why the writer has made that decision. And when you're thinking about structure in specific, you're thinking about why the writer has chosen to organize the text in a specific way, because nothing is by mistake. Okay. When you're analyzing a text, you just have to assume every single detail is on purpose. So think about how it builds up towards the middle of the text. And then as we go towards the end, think about why the writer may choose to end it in a specific way. How does it help put across their message? Okay. And I'll remind you of our question. How does the writer use structure to create a persuasive argument? So last week, when we were looking at language, we established that the writer has a specific message. The fact that they want other parents, and they specify mothers, to cherish the time that they have with their children whilst their children are young. That's the main message. That's the argument that the writer is putting forward. So as we read, think about how the way it's organized helps to support that argument, how is persuasive, how it persuades the reader. Okay, so we're going to start. So the title of the article is Boy Lost. He had black eyes with long lashes, red cheeks, and hair almost black and almost curly. He wore a crimson plaid jacket with full trousers buttoned on, had a habit of whistling, and liked to ask questions. He was accompanied by a small black dog. So in this opening paragraph, the writer is using past tense and they're focusing on their child, their son. So think about why they would choose to start it this way, okay? Why would they choose to start it this way? What kind of emotion does it create by them starting this way? What kind of focus is it giving the reader? What is it causing us to focus on? Then the second paragraph reads, "It is a long while now since he disappeared." Now, in terms of structure, that second paragraph is significant because it's a one sentence paragraph, and that's on purpose. So think about what kind of emotion they would want us to be focusing on there. Now, the first paragraph was in past tense. The second, there's a shift in tense. So you would need to think about why that is. Okay, why that is. So in the opening, there's a focus on, I'll ask you actually, what is the beginning of the text focusing on? Is it focusing on an event, on a person? What's the focus of that opening paragraph? If anyone wants to answer. Okay, so the focus is on the boy. Okay, so now as we carry on reading, think about what is the focus remaining on the boy and his disappearance, or is it shifting to something else? Okay, and when we're thinking about order of events, that's something that's an example of how you can think about it. Okay, thinking about, okay, that's the first thing that we're focusing on. What's the second thing, and how does it help build a specific emotion? And again, think about the idea of pathos in mind. We looked at the definition earlier on. What kind of emotion is being created? Okay. I have a very pleasant house and much company. My guests say, "Ah, it is pleasant to be here. Everything has such an orderly, put away look. Nothing about underfoot, no dirt." But my eyes are aching for the sight of cut paper upon the floor, of tumbled down card houses, of wooden sheep and cattle, of pop guns, bows and arrows, whips, tops, and go karts. I want to see crumbs on the carpet and paste spilt on the kitchen table. I want to see the chairs and tables turned the wrong way about. Yet these things used to fret me once. They say, "How quiet you are here. No one may, one may here may be at peace." But my ears are aching for the pattering of little feet, for a hearty shout, a shrill whistle, for the crack of little whips, for the noise of drums and tin trumpets. Yet these things made me nervous once. They say, you are not tired at home. How delightful to always be at liberty for concerts, lectures, and parties. No responsibilities for you. But I want responsibilities. I want to listen for the school bell of mornings, to give the last hasty wash and brush, and then to watch from the window, nimble feet bounding away to school. I want to replace lost buttons and obliterate mud stains, fruit stains, treacle stains, and paints of all colours. I want to be sitting by a little crib of evenings when weary little feet are at rest and prattling voices are hushed that mothers may sing their lullabies. They don't know their happiness then, those mothers. I didn't. All these things are called responsibilities once. So we've moved now towards the middle, the heart of the article, if you will. Okay, so there's an obvious shift in focus there. Okay, but I also want to ask you to think about any repeated patterns in that section that we've just read. So those three paragraphs, okay, that we've just read, are there any repeated patterns there? What's the effect of that? And what is the writer focusing our attention on here? How does it help contribute to the emotion that was established at the beginning? Okay. So, again, when you're thinking about structure, think about how everything is building up, how one thing after the other is helping to build up a specific emotion, and how does that emotion help support the writer's argument. So, to remind you, the main argument here is that parents, mothers need to appreciate their children when they're young. And as the writer expresses their regret, they're trying to communicate that. So that's the argument that the writer's making. So as we carry on reading, keep thinking about how the order of events, how the organization of the text, even sentences, how and paragraphs, how are they helping? Right, we'll carry on. A manly figure stands before me now. He is taller than I, has thick black whiskers, and wears a frock coat, billowy shirt, and cravat. He has just come from college. He calls me mother, but I am rather unwilling to own him. He stoutly declares that he is my boy, and says he will prove it. He brings me his little boat to show the red stripe on the sail and the name on the stern, Lucy Lowe. Our neighbor's little girl, who, because of her long curls and pretty round face, was the chosen favorite of my little boy. How the red comes to his face when he shows me the name on the boat. And as I see it all, as plain as if it were written in a book, my little boy is lost, and my big boy will 30 soon be. I wish he was still a little boy in a long white nightgown, lying in his crib, with me sitting by, holding his hand in mine, pushing the curls back from his forehead, watching his eyelids droop, and listening to his deep breathing. If only I had my little boy again, how patient I would be, how much I would bear, and how little I would fret and scold. I can never have him back again, but there are still many mothers who haven't yet lost their little boys. I wonder if they know they are living in their very best days, that now is the time to really enjoy their children. I think if I had been more to my little boy, I might now be more to my grown up one. So, in that final paragraph, again, notice it's a one sentence paragraph. And think about why the writer might choose to do that. Okay, to end in that way. How does that help convey their message? Okay, so Veronica said there are repetitions of the same sadness she has from losing her boy. Yes, so I think you're referring to those three paragraphs around the middle there, um, where there's a sense of, yes, even though other people see that her house is neat and tidy, she can go anywhere she wants, she's sad, okay? And there's the repetition of that back and forth of what people say and how she actually feels. Thank you for that. Okay, so some structure techniques. So when it comes to structure, like I said, you need to think about the way events are organized. Also thinking about any shifts in focus. So that's looking at it in terms of wider, on a wider perspective, if you will. Okay, you're looking at how things are organized. However, you can zoom in as well on other specific structure techniques. Okay, this is not an exhaustive list. I focused on the structure techniques that are in this text. Okay, so tense in terms of past tense or present tense, that's a structural choice. So if you've got a structure question, you can talk about the tense and the effect of that. The second bullet point, I said beginning, middle, and end. That links with the organization of events that we've covered. Exclamatory sentences, that's basically sentences that have an exclamation mark, okay? And you need to think about what the effect of an exclamation mark may be in a text. Secondly, not secondly, the fourth bullet point, 1, 2, 3, 4, yes, paragraphs, okay? So short paragraphs, long paragraphs, what is the effect? Sentences, so this can be whether the sentence is a short, simple sentence or a long, complex sentence. Lists, shifts in focus, which we've briefly covered, repetition, and anaphora. Anaphora is a type of repetition where we see a writer repeat a word or phrase at the start of successive sentences. So if sentence 1, 2, and 3 begin in the same way, they could begin with the same phrase. For example, when the writer says, I want to, I want to, I want to, that's anaphora. But we'll look at those examples. So I want you to have a think, okay, about how what techniques you can see in the opening 3 paragraphs, okay? So you can type in there what techniques are used in the opening 3 paragraphs that are on the screen. So I'll give you a minute or so. Have a look. What techniques can you see there? Okay, so thank you, Veronica. You can see a list. Yes, so there's some use of listing in that opening paragraph. Yes, definitely. And there's some listing in that third paragraph as well. Yes, definitely. Okay. Again, that short one sentence paragraph is significant as well. Okay, we'll go on to the next one. What about this paragraph? What techniques can we see there? Hello, I'm sorry. I had an issue with my camera just now. Can everybody still hear me? Can you still hear me? Okay, so yes, shifting focus. Yes, so it's not a huge shift in focus there. Thank you. Sorry again. You'll notice that my camera has changed a bit. Right. Yes, so we've got more listing, okay? And they're focusing on their emotions, how they feel about not having their child around in the same way, okay? Right. Towards the end now, so there's definitely a shift in focus here, okay? So I want you to see if you can tell me what the shift in focus is, okay? What is it shifted from and what has it shifted to? So we had a focus previously on how they feel, okay? But now who or what has the focus returned to in this part of the text? Yeah, so it's back to the boy, okay? It's back to him at this point in the text. The shift in focus has gone back to the boy, but it's him as a grown man, as the grown man that he is. Again, the mother is still building her argument about the loss of her child, okay? But it's now clear to the reader it's because the child, her son has grown up. It's not that he's missing or dead or anything like that. He has grown up, but it points to the permanence, okay, of the process of growing up, and it helps again build that argument. Right. Finally, the final two paragraphs, what kind of sentences are we seeing here? Okay. And also any other structure techniques that we can see. Okay, so you've said repetition of boy. Yes, there is the repetitive use of the word boy. My little boy is lost. My big boy. Okay, I wish he was still a little boy. Good. Okay, and that might emphasize her affection towards her son for when he was young, okay, as opposed to now. She does say it quite directly that she's unwilling to own him now that he's older. She does say it directly, and we can see that emphasized. Okay, right. So some keywords here. So we've looked at pathos already. So evoking pity or sadness. Monosyllabic, that relates more to the title. We're not going to look at that too much, actually. So words with one syllable. Poignant, so a keen sense of sadness or regret. And then brevity means brief or short. So this is just some useful vocabulary to help you be more accurate in your analysis. in terms of the emotions that are being conveyed in this article. Okay, so brevity, you might use that in relation to the paragraphs. Okay, their brevity, they're quite short and brief, the one sentence paragraphs. Okay, so you can use it in relation to that, for example. Okay, so we are going to start writing our response. Okay, so we are starting with that opening paragraph. Okay, and it's on the screen, and I want you to think about the questions that are in the orange box. Okay, and they are questions that will help you in writing your paragraph. So I'm going to run through what's on the screen at the moment, and we're going to use that as an example. Okay, so the opening paragraph is the one at the top in the white dotted box. Okay, and the questions that you can use to help you, for example, what emotion is the writer establishing in the opening paragraph? Where does the writer use anaphora? What is the effect of anaphora? How does the use of past tense create a sense of distance? What does the use of listing help the reader to focus on? How does this help to create pathos? So the example paragraph for that could be the use of anaphora by repeating the pronoun he establishes the boy lost as the focus of the article. So again, because this is the opening, whenever you're thinking about the start of something, think about what kind of emotion it establishes. Listing in the opening sentence, detailing his features, focuses the reader's attention on his appearance and builds on the emotive idea that the boy is missing. Okay, so another key word for when you're talking about structure is building. What kind of emotion, feeling is the writer building through the way they have organized events? The use of past tense in expressing he had, he wore, he was establishes that the boy she's describing is in her past and no longer a part of her life. It effectively creates a sense of distance and reflects the sense of loss the writer feels, helping to persuade her reader of the importance of cherishing their children whilst they're young. Okay, so that's that paragraph covers those points in the questions to help you box. Okay, and in terms of how you structure your paragraph, you need to make a point about how the opening is impactful. Okay, support this with a quote, explain the effect of the emotion created by the way it begins, and then explain the link with the writer's intention. Obviously, as you progress in whatever you're looking at, you would, make a point maybe about how it's developing towards the middle, or a point about how it ends. But it's always really useful in terms of structure to think about whether what you're looking at is at the beginning, middle, or end, and how that's helping the writer develop the feeling or emotion that they've established, whether that be sadness, tension, suspense, whatever it is. So that's the example, okay? In the red, that's the example paragraph that's going to stay on the screen. But now you are having to write your response looking at that one sentence paragraph that follows that first paragraph, okay? So again, you have questions to help you there. What is the impact of this one sentence paragraph? What emotion does it help to build? Okay, so we've established that sense of sadness in that opening paragraph. Okay, so what emotion is this helping to build? How is it helping to build that emotion? What is the effect of the shift in tense? So in that first paragraph, we had a focus on the writer was using past tense. Okay, he had, he wore, he was, but now it says it is a long while now, so it's shifted to present tense. Okay, how does the use of present tense intensify emotion? And then finally, how does this help to create pathos? Okay, so when you're structuring a paragraph, make a point about how the paragraph is impactful, then support this with a quote, then explain the effect of the emotion created by it, and then explain the link with the writer's intention. Again, remember, The question, which I'll display on the screen because it's not there, sorry, I will display it for you. The question is about how the writer is creating a persuasive argument. So you want to link everything to that, okay? So we will have 5 minutes. And again, if you want to add your paragraph to get feedback, then by all means do that. But I will put a 5-minute timer. Okay, so the 5 minutes has started. And then we'll have a look after this at the paragraph for this, for the short paragraph. Yeah, the paragraph responding to this section of the text, shall I say. Okay, 5 minutes has started. Okay, the question's on the screen just to remind you. How does the writer use structure to create a persuasive argument? So it's there for your reference. Yes, it does evoke sadness. Thank you. Thank you, Veronica, for that. Yes, it does create sadness. Okay. I would ask you how it creates sadness. Okay. So just be more specific about that. How does it create sadness? So yeah, to help you answer that, think about um, what the focus is on here. What's the focus? What the focus is in that paragraph, and how does that evoke sadness? Okay, telling she wishes she could go back to when her boy was little. Okay, so I ask you to focus more specifically on the sentence, on that sentence on the screen. It is a long while now since he disappeared. Okay, so the fact that she's focusing on it is a long while now since he disappeared. Okay, the writer's definitely confirming that this is somewhat permanent, okay? That this is not something that's gone away, that the boy disappeared and he's still not there, okay? Um, how does that help create a sense of sadness, pathos? We'll have a look. I'll show you what you may have been able to write. Okay, so this one sentence paragraph, it is a long while now since we disappeared, adds poignancy. Okay, so this poignant, again, meaning a sense of sadness and regret, whilst bringing us into the present tense. It draws our attention to the idea that the loss of this boy is ongoing and perhaps permanent, which intensifies the writer's sense of sadness. Okay, so here, what I was trying to hint at was the fact that it's ongoing. Okay, this is persuasive in communicating the temporary nature of childhood and the importance of parents valuing this time with their children. Sorry for some of the typos in that one, but that's what you could possibly have written. Okay, so I think the key part there, Veronica, for you would be the fact that this sentence, it draws our attention to the idea that the loss is ongoing and permanent. Okay, because before it was past tense. He wore this, and what he looked like. It was describing what he looked like. But then by bringing it into the present tense, it emphasizes that he is still lost. He has still not present. So it really intensifies that emotion because it's taking it from past to present. Okay. So we'll move on to the next question. Okay, so there's more to this paragraph now, as you'll see. So again, the paragraph is in the dotted box at the top, in the white dotted box. Okay, and the paragraph that we're focusing on is, they say, you are not tired at home. How delightful to be always at liberty for concerts, lectures, and parties. No responsibilities for you. But I want responsibilities. I want to listen for the school bell of mornings, to give the last hasty wash and brush, and then to watch from the window nimble feet bounding away to school. I want to replace lost buttons and obliterate mud stains, fruit stains, treacle stains, and paints of all colours. I want to be sitting by a little crib of evenings, when weary little feet are at rest, and prattling voices are hushed, that mothers may sing their lullabies. They don't know their happiness then, those mothers. I didn't. All these things I called responsibilities once. So, in this part of the text, think about what the impact of the reported speech is, okay, because that's a structural feature as well, speech. How does the writer use repetition, or more specifically, anaphora, in this part of the text? What's the effect of listing? And again, how does this help to create pathos? So think about those questions in writing your paragraph. And again, when you're writing, make a point about how it's impactful, okay? Support this with a quote, explain the effect of the emotion created, and link this with the writer's intention, their message, their intention of persuading and creating a persuasive argument. So use those questions again in the orange box to help you. And we'll have another 5 minutes. Okay, so 5 minutes for that now. And thank you again for your contributions so far. Thank you very much. Welcome to those of you joining. So if you were with us last week, we are using the same text, but we're focusing on structural techniques, okay? And we have just started our timed response for this one. We're just spending 5 minutes on it. And you can have a look at the questions that are in the orange box. The text we're focusing on is the one in the dotted white box at the top. So think about those questions. If you want to say hello as well, you can say hello and tell me what exam board you are with. AQA, EdExcel, OCR, Educast, or any other ones. Thank you, Veronica. So yes, there is a repetition of the responsibilities and listing as well. I want you to focus to now add to your paragraph how the writer feels about those responsibilities, and more specifically, the fact that she doesn't have them anymore. Okay? Because the question is, how does the writer use structure to create a persuasive argument? How are all these things persuading the reader to value their time with their children? Because that's her argument. Okay? So the things that you've stated, how is it helping to persuade the reader to cherish the time they have with their children? Just one more minute before we look at the example paragraph. One more minute. So again, explain the effect of the emotion created there. Okay, Veronica, that's specifically for you. Explain the effect of the emotion created by listing those responsibilities that she doesn't have anymore. How does she feel about that? How does that help her argument? Good. That's a good addition, Veronica. Yes, she does miss that. Okay. Now, finally, um, how does it help the reader get the message? How does it help her be more? How does the yes? How does it help the reader to message? Oh, sorry, that just was telling me that the 5 minutes is up. Okay, so 5 minutes is up. We'll look at a possible response. Okay. So the repeated back and forth structure of reporting the speech of others and then following it with her contrasting feelings creates a sense of a cyclical, ongoing sense of loss. Okay. So the fact that it's repeated back and forth, they say, but I feel or I want. They say, but I feel I want. It's repeated. Okay. So it creates that ongoing sense that this is something that's again, constant and ongoing. At the end of 3 successive paragraphs, the repetition of these things once, having caused her negative feelings before, emphasizes a sense of regret. The use of anaphora in the expression of the unfulfilled desire to relive her responsibilities, I want to, conveys how constant her sense of loss is because of the writer's repetition of the phrase. Each time it precedes a list of responsibilities like having to obliterate mud stains, fruit stains, treacle stains, and paints of all colors. The use of a long list suggests that these responsibilities once felt endless. However, their absence now creates an endless sense of loss. Okay? So the fact that, again, she doesn't have those responsibilities, it compounds, it adds to that sense of loss. What I didn't say, Veronica, what I should have said to you was you just needed some quotes as well to support what you were saying. So some examples of some quotes are some of the ones on the screen, like I want to, that's repeated. So, and that's anaphora because it's at the start of sentences. I want to, I want to, I want to. That's anaphora, okay? And also the long list, there's an example of that there, okay? Okay, right. I think this will be our final one. I don't think we'll have time for another one. So the paragraph that we're now looking at, I don't think is it the one that follows? I'm not sure. Anyway, it says, a manly figure stands before me now. He is taller than I, has thick black whiskers, and wears a frock coat, billowy shirt, and a cravat. He just came from college. He calls me mother, but I am rather unwilling to own him. He stoutly declares that he is my boy and says he will prove it. So the questions for this one, what is the impact of the short sentence? So it starts with a short sentence, a manly figure stands before me now. How does the writer use repetition and anaphora in this one? In what ways does this paragraph echo the first one? So if you look at this paragraph and you look at the very first paragraph, there are similarities there, okay? And again, how does that help to create a sense of pathos? So have a go at this one. I'll put 5 minutes again on the timer, and you can add any of your comments again to the live comments, and I can respond to you with feedback. And once again, thank you for your contributions so far. And 5 minutes is starting now. Okay, so thank you, Veronica. You said the impact of the short sentence is that the boy knows that he is her boy and he will prove it to her. Yes, it it does. I think that's the final one. So the short sentence I'm referring to is a manly figure stands before me now. But yes, that final sentence, yes. So what you've said there, you've described, okay, you've described it. That's what the sentence is saying. You're correct. That is what the sentence is saying. But what you need to do is to analyze the impact of that. What's the impact of her boy, her son saying, I will prove it to you? So, what kind of emotion does it create? So, always think about what kind of impact it creates. Okay, so so the emotion is the joy of the mother that the boy still cares about her. Um, mm, he sorry declares that he is my boy, and he says he will prove it. So maybe, but I don't think there's quite joy there yet. You know, I don't think there's quite a sense of joy necessarily there. Although we might imagine the mother might feel joyful about that, perhaps. I'll show you the example paragraph. So the short sentence, a manly figure stands before me now, reveals the current form of the boy lost as a grown man. The writer builds up to this moment as it offers the big reveal that she lost her boy to adulthood. It echoes the opening paragraph by its use of anaphora, as successive sentences begin with the pronoun he. Furthermore, by listing features of his physical appearance, as he now has thick black whiskers and wears a frock coat, billowy shirt, and cravat, the use of echoing here clarifies that it is the same person while showing the difference age has created. It emphasizes the little boy she lost has gone as he is now a grown man. Okay, so that's the main thing I would say that that paragraph emphasizes because he's now a grown man and it's like her little boy will never come back. Okay, so it actually adds to that sense of sadness because the mother's not sad because her son doesn't love her. That's not why she's sad. Okay, she's sad because he's grown up. Okay, and she can't go back to that time when he was young. So that's why she's sad. And so that paragraph adds to that, emphasizes that because he is now a grown man. There's no going back. Okay. So that was our final paragraph, okay, because we don't have time for any more. So if you've got any questions, you can add them. Um, And if you would like to join one of my groups, okay, they're £15 for the group classes, and they're on Thursdays and Fridays, okay? The mastery group is actually, it's £20, but all of the other ones are £15, and you can book by going on my website, www.thenivytutor.com. But if you've enjoyed today, please just leave a like on the video. And thank you so much for your contributions. It's always really great to have the interaction when people actually share their thoughts. So thank you so much, Veronica, for sharing. And also, if you've got any questions about anything that we've covered today, then please feel free to ask as we wind down to the full hour now. Feel free to ask any questions. Again, you're welcome. Yes, see you tomorrow for the classes. Thank you. See you. Thank you for joining once again. So yes, everyone, have a good evening. And if you're watching this on the replay, well done for all your great work, and well done for all the great work in the live lesson today. Lots and lots of contributions, like I said. Great to see. But that's it for today. And I'll see you next week for the next Wednesday webinar. Bye.